Hey, what's up? This is Sane. We're going to do a tutorial on how to make an adjustable countdown timer and an up timer. So you can adjust the time however you want. I spawned red cube and blue cube. This is not really an easy tutorial, so if you don't really know about the editor, you could watch my other tutorials that are much simpler. This one's going to be more of a complex tutorial. I'll be showing you what I'm going to do right here. I'll be doing this script right here as I set up during one of my live streams on this channel. And if you want to see more tutorials, you can go to the tutorials page on my website, click the scripts, and it'll tell you a bunch of scripts, not just by me, but a bunch of screenshots just as a script screenshot tutorial. That's what I wanted to show. But now we're going to go back to this map. No music, because this is a tutorial. And we're going to build the tutorial. So usually you want to set up your folders to be organized instead of to find things easier, how as I did. Okay, so this is a tutorial, so I'm going to grab all the scripts from the menus instead of just having something laid out. So what's going to happen is I'm going to go to gameplay, and this is where you find your scripting brains, and we're going to grab a script brain. Okay, always good to organize where your brains are in the editor. Now there is a bug in the editor where when you're scripting, when there's a lot of scripts on the map can crash. So I recommend saving often when you're doing this. Okay, go to the script menu, hold Y and go to the node graph while selecting a brain. But what we're going to do is we're going to back out of this menu. And then we're going to go over here and we're going to say rename. Because I want to have it organized. I'm going to call this a countdown timer. Since I'm on Xbox, it'll do spell check for me. Countdown timer. Pull up here under scripts, you see? Okay, that's how you find the object. And this is going to be a script brain called the countdown timer. This is going to be a universal timer, so meaning it doesn't matter where it is on the map. It works everywhere on the map, on this particular map. I'm going to be prefabbing this after I'm done to show the world and share my knowledge with the world. Because there's not a lot of... I've tried finding timers tutorials on YouTube. There's nowhere to be found. So maybe this can help a lot of people. Okay, we're loaded up the node graph. The node graph can be very, very complicated. I know my face is blocking the how-to node, but this is not a how-to node. This is a more of a complicated node script. So we're going to go to the middle of the script. We're going to press Y to bring up our secondary menu. Add object reference. That's a shortcut. Pressing Y, and then you can hit your object reference. Okay. Now, we don't have an object reference yet. Okay. So, we're going to have to make one. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the gameplay menu. And we're going to go to volumes, which are your zones. We're going to go and grab a named location zone. It's going to go like this. Now, you can see how this menu's off. If you want to switch that, you right bumper, go to the tools transform, go all the way down. This says displayed boundaries, all, and you can switch it to examined only. Examine means that you can hit this thing and go off. Very useful, so it doesn't clutter the map. We're going to name this location The reason why I'm not editing this part out because I want to go step by step so people don't get confused. So we're going to name this location Stage 1. Now we can copy select and we can name this location Stage 2. Okay. And we can get the starting location. And we can call this start. Zone and everything. Likely we can punch in a number 60 just to do a shortcut for faster. Maybe we're gonna go a little bit a higher number, 100. On PC this would be a little bit easier to do because it's PC. Okay, so we have our individual zones. Multi-select. Actually, cannot multi-select this, can we? No. We have to do this one by one, which is kind of... We probably don't have to do one by one. Mostly the editor is one by one, which is annoying. You can't really multitask a lot of things. Okay, so we got the zones set up. Now we can go back to our script brain to make this a lot easier. Now we can just duplicate this by hitting Y and selecting the zones. And select our zones. 1. Stage 2. Start. We want our start to be at the top. Now we want to go into the node graph and go all the way down to variable basics, get area monitor. This is how we're going to set up zones to change our timer on the fly. Now we go back into the area monitor, we go all the way down to events and we select on object entered area. The object is going to be the player. We're going to convert our player to an object. Ignore the global graph because it's automatically building. We're not done with the global graph. Okay, we set up the area triggers. So our clock is going to reset the timer when we hit the start zone, stage 1 zone, and stage 2 zone. Okay, and we're probably going to have another type of zone to reset the zone as well. We're going to create more of those zones as we build the clock. So you have the start zone, your stage 1 and stage 2 zone, and then we can set up a teleporter to do to reset the zone. Let's say if you want to fall off the stage and restart again, we can have a zone like that, like a reset zone as well. But we'll do that at the end. Okay, now we're just going to set up the actual timer itself. So for this, we would need an identifier tab. These are going to be our main identifiers. We go all the way down, go to variable basics. We need an identifier. An identifier is like a link between cards. So you can identify things that happen in between cards. So we're going to call the first identifier time left. We're going to call the second identifier the pause timer. Okay, so these are going to be like your main focuses. I recommend saving every so often so the game editor doesn't crash, because it tends to do that with scripting. So always save for scripts, so you have like a base just in case you don't lose. But this game does have an autosave and a version history just in case something happens, which is pretty nice. Now we need to go to advanced variables. We need a declare number variable. We need a set number variable. And we need a get number variable. That's all we're going to need for this tutorial. These main cards. What is a declare number variable? Well, a declare number variable tells you that's the starting number. The get number variable gets whatever the starting number is. And the set number variable, you could always change the initial value whatever you want to. So remember, the declare is the holding value, the starting value. You can set the number to whatever number you'd like, and the get value just gets the value from whatever the initial value has been set. That's it. So for this tutorial, we're going to make a countdown timer. If you want to make a count up timer, I'll try to explain it at the end on how that works. Okay, now we're going to go to Advanced Custom and get in every n seconds. Now with this particular timer, you have to set up the n seconds in a particular way. You want to load up the menu, and you want to set this to 0.45 seconds, because that's the closest it is to an actual in-game clock using this method. And now we want to go to logic. And we want to go to an increment number value. This is a very important tool card for our setup. This is going to deduct the time as in seconds. Okay? We want to go to the increment number value, go inside and switch the increment number value to -1. Just like that. But we won't really need to do that actually. So we will just switch this to 0 for now. Make sure the increment number value is set to local. Make sure all of these are set to local, because we're going to do local time. So remember, make sure all of them are set to local. Remember, this is a very important step. If you miss one little thing, scripts or coding usually stop working. Okay? Now for this, we would need for each player under logic as well. We're going to lay out the cards before we connect them. Then we got to go to players. We're going to get a thing called all players. So for each individual player, this should be different. Now we're going to go all the way back down to variable basics and get another identifier. This identifier is going to play a crucial role for the timer. We're going to call this when timer reaches 0, it resets. It doesn't matter how long the name is, as long as the matching identifier, it doesn't matter what name it is. Just keep them organized so you know what to do. Okay, bear with me, we're almost done with the tool cards. Okay. All right, now we need to go to the UI menu, because this is going to be a printable digital clock that's going to be playing on the fly. Right, I wouldn't be making this tutorial if it wasn't a good clock. We're going to be selecting this one, select objective banner. This is going to be how our time shows up on the stream. Now, there's a bad thing, you can't customize the font size of this timer, but the timer works exactly as you would want it. You can tweak this timer after to make it better, just in case I did a bad job. But I'm giving you the starting scripts. We want to create message UI B, because B lets you put script on the screen. This is how you would do it. So remember, it has to be a create UI message B. Now we need to go all the way up to events custom. We need to grab an on custom event. And we need to grab a trigger event. The trigger event is going to do our comparison value. Our custom event is going to share the trigger event identifier to make the logic happen. Now we're going to go back to the menu and go down to logic. We're going to get a branch to see if our logic is true to pass the value to the next value. And we're going to grab a compare value by going down to compare. Logic compare. Grab this compare module toolcard that will compare. Now we're going to set operand A to 0, because we want the time to reach to 0, because if we don't do this, the number will keep counting. Our timer will keep counting and we'll go down to the below negative numbers. So when it reaches 0, it will reset to the default time. Okay. Now, okay, now we can connect these tool cards together. We want to connect the every n seconds with the increment value. We want to connect the increment value to for each player. You want to connect the get all players for the for each player. We want to select the execute per player to this diamond right here to set objective for banner. We want to select the current player to be the player. We want to go to the objective banner. We want to say this to true. Okay. We want the message to connect with the message. All right. We want to go inside the UI message. And we want to select this to X. This could be whatever it wants. Actually, you know what? We're going to just set this to A because this is not going to be irrelevant. And then that's it. The objective banner is going to be connected to the trigger event, right? We're going to move the identifier over here because it's going to do stuff. The identifier is going to identify this, and it's going to identify this. So two identifiers that will be completely connected. We're going to select our onCustom event to the branch, and the condition is going to be A equals B to the condition. Okay. Now we're going to get the get variable data card. This is going to be the get variable data card. Okay. We're going to connect the variable to empty X, to the X UI message. We're going to compare, and then we're going to connect the value to operand B. See that? All right. We got that established. Okay. Now we're going to copy another get variable data card. We're going to put it right here. We're going to get the value and put it inside of the increment value. So we get the increment value of the get variable data. We're going to have another declare value above the incremental data. Okay, we're going to set the declare value. We're going to make sure we have our pause timer close to this region because our pause timer is going to share these values and our time left is going to share these values. Okay, so we're going to have, so we have the get numbers established. So the initial values are going to be these. Let's set them up. We're going to have two variable data cards. One variable data is going to be used for the pause timer. One set number data, set number variable is going to be used for pause timer. And one set number variable is going to be used for the time left. That's how we'll be able to adjust the timers per stages and pausing the timers per stages or whatever zone we want to activate. Now this is a complicated tutorial if you don't understand anything what's going on here. It's all gibberish to you. But anyone who has an idea of math, they know what I'm talking about. It's pretty simple math too. Well, at least the set values, not the connecting part. So what we're going to have to do here is we're going to set the declaration value to 0. We got to set it to 0, even though it's default 0. We got to set it to 0. The declaration value for, let's just say the first stage, my starting value, I'm just going to say 10 seconds. Actually, I'm going to say 5 seconds since this is a tutorial. 5 seconds. Okay, that's going to be the starting value. It's going to be 5 seconds, which is your first stage. Okay. Now, we're going to connect the pause timer to the declaration value. We're going to create the pause timer to the get number value. Okay, that's it. And we're going to create the pause timer to the one of the many identifiers we're going to use. Now this identifier right here is going to be set to 0. We're going to bring this set number variable and we're going to put it right here. When is true, if true, we're going to select the true option and select this area right here. So when this becomes true, we're going to pause the timer. The timer is going to be paused and set the timer to 0. Okay? Now you can also reset this timer if you want. And if you want to reset the timer, you can add another variable from the time left. We'll explain that later. Now with a time left, make sure you select your time left to your increment value. This is an important one. If you don't do this, the timer will not work. It will not count down. Make sure your time left enters the declaration value. This is the main value that will not move. And any time lefts will have the set value. So you can copy as many set values as you want. The get number values are never going to move. The declare number variables are never going to move. But you can copy as many set number values, because the set number values, you can set whatever number you'd like. Okay, so we got everything kind of going right now. Everything's all being connected and ready to go. The timer is almost done. We can start testing it. Okay, so when we start the timer, okay, we're going to bring it down here. When we start the timer, when we go and hit start stage 1, we're going to say, okay, this timer is going to be set to 5 seconds every time we hit the starting zone. If we want to hit stage 2 or stage 1, we're going to leave it 5 seconds. If we're going to hit stage 2, we're going to change this number to 10 seconds. You got to connect the dots. There you go. See? That's the timer. Now I'm going to unlog this. So you can see how the tool card is set up. But can't because the thing is... There you go. That is the timer script card functionality. Let's see if it works. But before we do that, we're going to create another one of these. The reset value. Okay, so the timer will keep starting. Okay, so as soon as we start... Missing countdown. Missing node requirements? What? What is it missing? Oh yeah. So always remember this. Every time you create a new identifier, make sure you link these identifier cards. You can really get confused. So remember, any set value that belongs to time left has to be set to the identifier. Anything that shares pause timer needs to be set to the identifier. So always keep that in mind. Ten seconds. Now, there needs to be another thing to count down the timer. Whereas the initial value is not going to know anything. So we need to grab this number variable, which is going to be the identifier of pause timer. And we have to set the identifier to -1 to begin counting the time. because that just sets the time. So for stage 1, we're going to start the time. Connect the dots. Not close together because you can't connect the dots. Okay. Now we will connect the pause identifier. The pause identifier. Make sure everything is checked out. Everything seems to be checked out properly. Except the get number variable is different. So remember, don't make the same mistake I'm making right here. Make sure all the identifiers are linked. Remember, all the identifiers have to be linked or this is not going to work properly. Sometimes you can think that the editor's broken, but it's just you missed one tiny little setting. It all makes the difference. The only warning you should get is the countdown timer warning. That's actually a lie. The editor is not prepared to handle this type of logic. As soon as we go to ×5, it will start counting down. We hit the 10-second mark. You see that? Stage 2, when it hits to 0, 0. We go back to the start. It switches back to 5, and then 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Do you see that? When we go to stage 2, it will reset to 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, and we'll lock 0 in place. See that? Now what happens if we wanted to make this timer a little bit better? This is what the ending tutorial is supposed to be. So we're going to make those higher up so we can jump on top of it. Okay. So what we can do here is we can actually start doing a different type of timer. Okay. These are going to be when the countdown timer starts. Okay. So we're going to have both of these zones. Hopefully we can edit the zones together. We cannot. That's the annoying part. We have to do it individually. Edit the widths of these. There should have been an option to multitask that, but there isn't. Okay, so we're going to actually set up a little bit more to make this timer more comprehensible, but you gotta kind of get the gist of it. So we're just going to have that stage 2, 2, stage 2, 2, but we're going to name it just because of the tutorial of the video. Always want to have your stuff organized. We're going to call this stage 2 timer. Stage 2 timer. I think this is stage 2, right? And then stage 1 timer. Okay, we're going to have a stage 1 timer and a stage 2 timer. All right, and now we're going to have another zone. At the very, 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 very end. We're not going to make it too long, so we're going to call this stage 1 end. And we're going to call this stage 2 end. And now we're going to create another type of zone. It's going to be the teleportation zone if you ever want to learn how to do teleportation. So we're going to edit the zone, the width. We're going to put it to 50. That's big enough. Then we're going to put it to 150. We're going to set this to 45. This. We're going to change the name to Stage 2. Stage 2 Fall Zone. And we're going to call this one Stage 1 Fall Zone. All right. Now we just have that. Don't really... And when you copy stuff, just be careful with the folders. Obviously, when I copy this stuff, it's going to be all in the same folder. But for the tutorial, I don't really care too much. We're just going to make a bunch of blocks to jump on. Really reach to the end. And there we go. And just to make things a bit less annoying, we're going to go to Sandbox and we're going to spawn just a random fusion coil. See, with the fusion coils, you have to name them something that you will remember. So we're going to call it S2, S2B. We're going to call this S1B, bomb. It's good to set these to no collision. And it's good to set these parameters to have despawn spawn abled in 1 second. Well, yep. So this is going to be the countdown timer setup. We're going to make this a little bit more comprehensive. Okay, so we're going to set up another zone. We're going to have more zones now. All right. So how many references are we going to have? We have a lot more now to deal with. We have a stage 1 fall zone. We have a stage 1 timer. We have a stage 1 end. Make sure your stages are organized, but for this tutorial, we're just going to put them here. Okay, so you have these. Stage 1 fall zone, Stage 1 timer and stage 1 end. Now we got to do 3 more of these things. Hopefully we can fit them all. So we're going to have stage 2 falls, stage 2 timer. Stage 2 fall zone. Stage 2 timer 1? What? Stage 2 timer, stage timer 1. I think that's going to be the end thing, right? Always organize your scripts. Stage 2 end. Organize the names of your stuff so you won't get lost. Always have that. Now it's stage 2 end. You see that? It goes a long way when you can organize your stuff so you don't get lost, even if you make it. Make sure you name something. Always organization is a must. And if you're working for a company, if you're scripting or whatever, it's always a must so everyone can read your language, right? You must code or script anything that's fine-tuned. So it's not just a bunch of spaghetti everywhere or just code that is unreadable and it's hard to understand. Code optimization is really nice, and organization is really nice. Give you tips for that. Okay, so now this is becoming super duper complicated now. Okay, but everything, the groundwork is already set up. So if I were me, I would give this a save. Because it would suck to Infinite to crash and I'd lose everything. Okay. So this is all the scripts for the timers, right? Okay. Now we gotta have another script if you ever want to do teleportation. This is the script to do it, but we don't have to copy the script again. We can just say, okay, no, actually we need to do another script for teleportation. Actually, we do not need to do that because we already have, we can borrow stage 2 and stage 1 zone properties. Okay, so we're going to borrow stage 1. That's going to be our respawn point. And we're going to copy stage 2. Okay, and then we're going to grab the zones. Stage 1 fall zone. And we're going to grab stage 2 fall zone. Okay, so now what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to say, obviously grab this and this because we're going to need it again. This is how you make triggers in this game for the player. We're going to grab it again for stage 2 fall zone. Stage 1 is going to be the respawn. Together? See that? We're going to go back into the menu and we're going to go to a new area. We're going to go to get object position. This is going to be the object position, which the player will teleport to. Now we're going to go to players and go down to teleport player. Select this object, select it to the player. We're going to make sure it's like that so you can see what's going on. Grab this, link it with that. Grab the object, link it with the player. Grab the position and link it with the position, position to position. Now we're teleporting. You see that? That's the script card so far. Okay. Now this is where it starts to get a little bit interesting now. Okay, we have the teleportation stuff working. Exactly. So what we need to do now is stage 1 fall zone. We would want to, because we already have a script to pause the timer and set it to the starting value. So we don't actually want to do this right away. We're going to copy this. We're going to delete these. Remember, every time you copy one of the set values, you have to link match it with the identifier. The negative ones or the zeros are the pause timer identifier. And anything that's 5 or 10 is going to be your custom countdown timer identifier. So you have to match the time left and the pause timer with the right identifiers, or they will not know what to do. You have to write the instructions for them. So when we fall off the stage, I don't think anything's really going to happen, right? But stage 1 timer will begin the timer. We know that. And stage 2 timer will begin the timer. That. And we gotta go all the way up to the pause timer. It's just easier to set the identifiers instead of just individually going to each identifier and do it manually. You can just plug it in. Okay, so identifiers, the countdown timers are working there. As soon as we respawn, the identifiers are there. Okay, now we can grab one of these because it's already set up. We're just copying and pasting it. This pauses the timer. Every time I respawn, it's going to pause the timer. We're going to do that for stage 1 and stage 2. We're going to hit the pause timer identifier again. There you go. So every time we respawn to stage 1 or stage 2, it's going to pause the timer and it's going to reset the timer to its original state, which is 5 or 10 seconds, but depending on the stage. Now, the end zone, we're going to pause the timer again. I'm going to copy one of these. We're going to find the end zone. So stage 1 end zone and stage 2 end zone. We got to connect them. Then we got to go back up again and match the identifiers with the right identifiers. It's not going to work. Now, it seems overly complicated, but this is the easiest way I found out to do a clock. All right? The easiest way, I know. So now we have a script available for us to do, which is fall zone 1 and fall zone 2. In case we want to reset the timer again, which it doesn't make any sense, but hey, if you want to reset the timer for stage 1, you could do that as well. We don't leave these unchecked. So when we fall off the area, we'll reset stage 1. Fall off, we'll reset stage 2. And we have to hit the identifiers. It's not needed. You don't have to do this. This is just another thing you could do. We're going to save 003 version of the map. Wiggling my stick because I can get jammed in the menu. Okay, so when it says warning, failed to graph is not a good look right here. Okay, so this is the countdown timer. We put fusion coils there for the end. Okay, so it starts counting down the time. Right. If we hit the zone, boom, it resets back to 10. You see that? We keep going down the course. It goes 9, 8, 7. When we hit the end, boom, it pauses the timer to 5. It's going to stay on 5 until we actually hit the zone again. It's going to reset back to 10. And if we run out of time, it's going to pause at 0. Now you can reset this if you want. Now it stops at 0. Do you see that? We hit the zone. Boom, reaches 10. We hit this zone, it's 5. You see that? It takes a little bit of time to delay. We go up the stage, we fail, it resets back to 5. Well, let's go to the end. We can only do this is a this is a strict time limit. Okay, so it pauses at 0. Let's try to do that really fast. Okay. So it stops at 1 second. That was actually a hard stage to do. And now, boom. You see that? Now we have a full functioning timer. And then when you go back to the start, it defaults to 5 anyway. So if I go to stage 2, go back to 10. If I go back to the starting, it reverts to 5 to its default. And that's how you do a checkpoint system and a timer all in one video. I'm not going to put the teleportation in the video. That's going to be extra. But this is how you do a timer. 100% timer. I'm going to take a screenshot of this. I'm going to prefab this brain with all the core stage and everything. So this is going to be a bonus part of the video if you wanted to learn an additional script. So I want, as soon as we reach the end, I want to blow up that bomb, okay, to trigger the ending. So it's going to be the end value here. So we're going to go back to the menu and we're going to say object, damage object, which is the end. And we're going to set this value to 100. Set this to 100. It's going to be a bonus part of the video. Now we don't know what the object is, so we're going to say object reference. Object reference. Selected our object reference. This is going to be called something B, right? Stage S1B. With all those numbers, I don't know why. And stage 2B. Okay, so that's the object reference, so you can say your object identifier. So now we're going to write another script as well for this. So we're going to go back to events. We're going to say on object damaged. Right, we're going to write this twice. Object is going to be this. Object is going to be this. Right. On object damaged, what do we want to do on object damaged? Well, we want to set off an explosion, of course. But we want to reset this in a proper manner. So we're going to say delete object. We're going to go to logic, wait for n seconds. We're going to go back to object and say spawn object. I connect the dots. I'm going to set this to 1 second. Connect, boom, copy it. Connect this. This. and select our identifier objects. Same thing with the identifier objects here. That's it. So now in this tutorial, we have a full functioning time. This is my script. You probably won't be able to see the script because my face is blocking the way. No, it's perfect. So that is the countdown timer. I'm going to take a screenshot of that because I'm going to be doing some Photoshop work with that particular script. And this is how you do a countdown timer. It doesn't have to be this complicated, but this is 80 nodes for this, for more complicated. So this is how you do the teleportation. Right, is this part right here, and then this is an object damaged part right here. Now we can give it a test to see what happened. So we know that the timer works. We know that the reset works. Then we reach the end, this thing will blow up. Boom. Let's test stage 2. Boom. Now obviously you don't want to, you know. So that's just a basic event. So I'm going to prefab this brain and prefab actually everything together. So you know. We're going to start with the blocks. Fusion coils. The zones. Timers. Brain. The starting zone and our bottom zones. Be careful not to die because it's underneath the map. Okay, so this is going to be the prefab. We're going to hit prefab. What are we going to call this prefab? Well, we can call it something. We can call it prefab full countdown timer. So people could use. Prefab full countdown timer. So if you don't want to follow this script tutorial, you could download this prefab and have the clock automatically downloaded on your map, and you can just adjust the time. So we're gonna, I guess, go back to the overview of that, maybe. Okay, so what happens if I just say, okay, so we can just hit the node wherever we want, which is good. Let's hit the node and see what's going on here, okay? So even if it's prefabbed. Okay, so remember, if you're going to download this prefab and use my timer, make sure that you don't touch anything. If you want to customize this script and put an ending sound to the timer, you would have to have another branch set up to where when the timer reaches a set amount of seconds, let's just say 5 seconds left, you can add a klaxon sounds to it as well. So what you would do is you would copy the compare, the branch, and another set of these trigger events over here with a sound source. Okay? Okay, so, and with another matching identifier, and you're going to call the identifier when timer reaches set amount of time, sound begins. You probably can't write all of that in the identifier because there's a limited space. And you can set your compare to 5 seconds or 10 seconds. And then when set time reaches a certain threshold of time, it starts going bonk, 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 bonk. And maybe you can even have a different variable when it reaches 5 seconds, like a different pitch of a tone, like bonk, 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 bonk. Or maybe even have the screen light up or something. I don't know what you could do with the editor. But then you can have a more comprehensive timer. But this is a basic timer setup. So if you want to make this better, I gave you the knowledge to iterate this and make it better. But this is going to be a basic countdown timer in the Halo Infinite editor. This is going to help a lot of people. You know, shout out to the... oh yeah, when this... be careful, when this thing is prefabbed, none of these scripts are going to work, I don't think. So you're going to have to unprefab this for the thing to work, just to give you a heads up. Don't just place it on the map and hope it to work. If you unprefab it, everything should go back to its default position. All the scripts. And if it doesn't, then that sucks. And you have to re-find all the things and re-select all the object references again, which is annoying. But yeah, so that's going to be it. That's going to be it. That's a 1 hour tutorial of a basic timer. I'm going to be chaptering this video, you know, for additional things that you could do, because obviously I went a little bit above and beyond in this setup. I had the timer set up, the layout of the tool cards. This is like a lesson. And then I actually introduced a little obstacle, a very easy stage with 2 different timers, a reset timer. I did teleportation zones for each stage, and I did an on-object explosion when you reach the end. So this is a 1 hour timer. I know it's kind of hard to watch, but again, if you don't want to do all this work, you can just download the prefab. I'm going to write down the description. My name is Sane the Legend, and you can find my file by typing the gamertag Sane the Legend, or typing in the prefab full countdown timer. That's probably going to be the name of the prefab that's going to be publicly available in the file share tab. So we're going to say save map. I'm not going to publish the prefab right away. And I'm going to say 04. How do I find these prefabs? Well, we're going to leave the forge. And we're going to tell you how you find the prefab. So you're going to go all the way back to the main menu, go to the community tab, and hit all the way left, and you can select these. Popular modes, popular prefabs. I want you to select popular prefabs. And then there's going to be keywords. You can type in, I think you can type in my gamer tag, but I'm not really sure. Just going to type in countdown timer. So there's only 1 countdown timer. I don't know if this is good or not. We can select it, and guess what? It's not available for download. So we have a countdown timer that's not available for download. So I'm going to make mine's available for download, but it defeats the whole purpose of sharing your prefab if you're going to have copyright protection on. My guess is this person doesn't know when you put copy protection on, you don't have the ability to download the file and use the script. So just keep that in mind. If you want to have the copy protection for your map, I understand that. You don't want people to steal your work. But when it comes to prefabs, this option is indefinite. It doesn't make much sense at all. So that's how you find prefabs, popular maps, recommendations, and popular modes using the browser all. It's almost like a store to look at people's stuff if they wish to publicly available, or they want to show off and say, hey, here's my prefab, but you can't download it, so what's the point of having it there? I think the only thing that matters is obviously looking at the maps, looking at somebody's map for inspiration and all that. This is a great way to share your prefabs without revealing your entire map. So people can't steal your map. They can only just steal the script. It doesn't really matter about the script. If it's your script, who cares? I think scripts should be shared among everybody. When it comes to the artistry and map, I get the copyright in that particular area. But the scripting, I don't really get that sort of thing. But I get it. You want to have ownership for the script. Obviously, shout out to the person who made Hot Potato. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be able to make this countdown timer. But the hardest part about the hot potato thing is I didn't know nothing about scripting. I had to extract the timer from his hot potato, which is super hard to do. And I figured it out myself, studied it, looked up on math.com how to understand certain things, and I made a countdown timer. All you need to do is use set variable events, incremental variable events, and that's it. Timer's done. It's that easy. You literally just have to do minus, addition, and that's it. You just need to know how to add and how to subtract. You could use your fingers for that. That's going to be it for my 1 hour and 5-minute tutorial. I hope this tutorial helped you a lot, and I hope you're going to make some cool-ass countdown timers. And what's even cool about the countdown timer is you can even set up events. So let's say if you wanted to have a strict time limit on your stage, when time runs out, you can teleport the player if the time runs out. You see? You could do a lot of things with the timer scripts, dude. A lot of things. I'm sharing you this knowledge. I'm going to make more tutorials in the future, much more simpler than this. And I'm not going to make tutorials that already existed. Okay? I'm probably going to have a tutorial playlist on my Saints Custom Designs of other people's tutorials in my playlist and my own. And I'm going to edit the description saying, hey, check out my tutorials as well as other people's tutorials that I found. So I'm not like stealing other people's tutorials or whatever. I've never found a Halo Infinite timer tutorial, mainly because it's so hard, because it is so hard. If you don't understand scripting in Halo Infinite, remember it's different in the Unreal Engine. If you don't understand Halo's Infinite scripting, you're going to go nowhere with it, because you got to know where things are at. You got to be familiar with the pipeline, or you're never going to go nowhere. But since I love Halo and I have love and passion for Halo and I'm part of huge communities for Halo, that's my passion. So that's going to be the end of my 1 minute, 7-minute tutorial. I'm going to edit this into chapters so it doesn't drag on the thing, but I'm not editing this out because I want it to, it's a tutorial without music, tutorial to show people how it's done, how much work it takes, and people can just skip through the chapters. I'm going to edit in the video description, or you could even edit it through the video timeline as well. So, I'm Sin Legend, and laters, although I haven't said it already. If you want to see more tutorials, you can go to the game tutorials page on my website, go to script photos, and it tells you all the scripts, not just by me, but my friends, myself, and scripts I found online. I just took a screenshot and shared them. If you want to know how to script better, those scripts will get you up in line. And I'm going to be basing on my tutorials off those particular scripts. Some of them, of course. But that's going to be it for me. And if you want a link to my playlist, you can click this button when it becomes available. Or you can go to my playlist, Halo Infinite Tutorials, on Saints Custom Designs. So laters.